Welcome to A New View. We are Restored Ministries, and today we're going to be talking about Bible study basics. Some of you may be thinking, ugh, boring.
I was just going to say that. I'm like, it's totally not boring.
Yes. Or, oh, I'm scared. But really, we're going to be talking about the woes, the foes, and things you need to know. Because some people are intimidated. They really are. I know, especially for me, I remember when I first did it, I had a bad experience with Bible study. And that's where the whole Divine Connections came about. That word was me praying to God saying, you know, Lord, I only want divine connections. You know, show me who my true friends were. And I got really burned in my very first Bible study, and I'm thinking, here I came back to the Lord. This is what we're supposed to do, to grow with one another, to hold each other accountable, and it was not a good experience at all. And then I know about 5 years ago is when you and I said, hey, this summer, let's get some people that maybe haven't done a group, and let's get together. And we did Sheila Walsh's The Promises in the Storm, and Kim was with us.
That was my first one.
And we had like about,
This was my virgin study.
And it was like 8 of us, and then, you know, people dwindle off. And then remember how Divine Connections kind of evolved, and we would do it twice a month, and we would have a brunch, and we would be very what's the word I'm looking for? We would be very intentional, but of saying
considerate
and saying, God, who would you want to join us? To join us. And it was so amazing how God had these people divinely connected on so many levels, whether their daughter was doing this or their child or their marriage or whatever.
Yes.
God just really showed up and showed out. And then we started meeting in the cafe. And we had like 25 people for the altered study. And then God really began speaking to me and saying, you know, let's unpack the Bible together. Because I read the Bible, I did a lot of Bible reading plans, but I really just felt unqualified. Like, I was like, I don't know the Bible stories like I should. I don't know these things. And then it was so beautiful how I remember, I think our very first, help me, Steph, what was our very first book of the Bible? I think it was Ephesians. No, it wasn't Ephesians.
Have we done Philippians?
It was James. Maybe it was James. I don't know.
It could have been James.
It could have been James. I think we did James right after altar.
I just remember our phone conversation about it when you came up with the idea of studying the books of the Bible, and you were very, again, the word intentional, and even considerate of you had it mapped out to, this is how many weeks we could do, this is how the book will flow in those weeks, and you just, God was obviously, we're being obedient to Him, but it was just amazing. It might
have been Galatians and James. We've done Galatians, James, Colossians, Ephesians. We just wrapped up Matthew. Was amazing.
Yeah.
And just a little side note, because Divine Connections, if you're in Northwest Houston, Texas, you can join us for Divine Connections. We will resume our study in September, and we're going to be doing the book of Mark. So you can go to our website. You can email us at contact@restoredministries.org and get all the information, and we'll reserve you a spot. But that's so good about how, like, you know, like God was all in it, and He really showed up. And look at how the conversation, we've had people of all ages, all races, all backgrounds, different denominations. We have people from all different churches, and some that don't have a church home. This is kind of like their fellowship while they're in their interim. But I love that God always shows up, and He really helps us to unpack. So getting back to what we said today, the woes, the foes, and things we need to know. Okay, I can only think of one foe to Bible study, connecting with people and unpacking the Bible.
I'm going to be like, what the foe is that?
That's good. That's good. That's a good one.
This is how we roll a Bible study. We just say what we're thinking, give it to Jesus.
Yes, exactly. So what is the foe? Guess what? It's the enemy.
Oh,
The enemy is your only foe. But he's the only foe because he's going to tell you, you're not qualified to unpack the Bible. You need to have a precept study. You need to have this outline. You're not a theologian. You're not a scholar.
You don't have time for that.
You don't have time for a Bible study.
Go to a Bible study not knowing something, and I pick one thing in your mind right now that you don't know that maybe you're a little insecure about. Go to any Bible study, and I promise there are people there that want to answer that question.
Right. But take it to God too, because so many people will want to answer the question for you and not really let you unpack it with God. And I think we've done a beautiful job where we can gracefully disagree, saying, I don't really see it that way. And then either, we can maybe be swayed like, okay, that's something for me to ponder. Or it's just like, hey, to each his own. And that's what I think the beauty of it is that we can disagree on things, but we still love each other. We still pray for each other. So that was the only foe that I could think of, is him keeping us isolated and not wanting us to connect, and also keeping us to buy the lie that we're unqualified, that we don't know how to unpack the Bible or read the Bible. Now the woes, there are some woes to it. When you have a lot of people sign up and then they start to dwindle and cancel off. I have a lot of people get freaked out about that. And they're like, life gets busy. You're going to always have a lot of people that have every good intention to join, but then life gets busy. And you have to, and you don't take it personally. Don't get offended by that. God knows exactly who's going to be here. I remember sitting around the table and we had lots of people, and then they all started backing out that day. And then I think God had it where it was just like 4 of us that day. And he knew exactly who needed to be here, who needed to get prayed for, how we needed to unpack it. And so don't worry about that woe.
Don't fret.
Yes. Disunity and discord. You're going to have some people in the groups that like to stir some stuff. And so the other woe is you're going to have to find your words. Sometimes that's hard. Speak,
or
grace
find
and love.
someone who can find words for you. Like, so funny. No, but you know what? We've all grown in that. I will say, and how to use our words and be kind about it and say what you need to say.
You're funny.
Like, can I have like a blinker?
But that's so true. Is that it's just like say, hey, not happening here. And we've had a few instances, and I've had to just say, I'm sorry, but that's not what I'm about. That's not what we do. And then things to know. What would you think would be some little things to know? I think the easiest thing is it's easier than you think to start. Ask God, whether it be a book of the Bible, a DVD study. Right Now Media is a great resource that a lot of churches give to their congregation for free. There's little studies there. You can just gather some people, turn on the coffee pot. And you don't have to have food. I've been to ones where we brought dishes and it's great and it's good, but you can also get a little sidetracked. And so I have some snacks, I have some water, coffee, and we do have, when we do the potluck or we go to lunch or things like that, but not every time. We jump in here and we get busy. So the things to know probably would be, it's easier than you think. God's always, in there. If you're wanting to glorify Him, He's always going to be in there. Anything else y'all can think of?
I was just thinking about, we're designed for connection. And I know you feel that. We feel that. Right. People I talk to feel that, from my mom to my sister to my friends. Any woman that I know has a desire for connection. What does that look like for you? May be different from what it looks like for the 3 of us, or for me, or whatever. But we're designed for that, and we desire that. And so this is one way. It's kind of like a double whammy of getting connected to other people and to God, which I think is like the ultimate way to connect with people is through a relationship with God and sharing your faith with that person. And it's just a deeper thing.
Growing in Christ.
And it doesn't mean that it's going to be, what is like rainbows and unicorns and awesome, I'm never going to disagree, and this is so great. And no, because that's not realistic. We're also designed, we're very emotional, and we're there's so many different facets, of what it is to be a woman. And so when you get together with a group of women and you're discussing God, and you have your different experiences and translations and thoughts and all of that, sure, we've talked about how we've thought different ideas or different things from different points in Scripture, but it's such a beautiful thing to get women together. And I think what you touched on when we started Divine Connections, what I remember is I was at the gym a lot, and I would meet women, specifically at this gym, that would say something to me about, in conversation of, do you go to Bible study, or do you do this? And I just kept hearing it, and I thought, these women are like me, and they're looking for an outlet, or they're looking for a place to come together and really talk and get vulnerable. And vulnerability is what happens in these groups.
Right.
And vulnerability is the way you grow, it's the way you heal, and it's the way
Right.
you connect with people. And I'm
That's
telling
so
you,
good,
if you
Stephanie.
want that, now is the time. Maybe not this summer, but if you're feeling like you have people around you that are like, hey, are you reading anything, like a special
Right.
book, or where they're asking you questions, or you have those questions, I think it might be the Holy Spirit knocking on your door saying, hey,
Right.
start a group in the fall, or get some girls together. And,
Right.
and,
Or even
you know,
just
get it
one
started.
person too, and just say, let's read this book together. You know, this is really
Yeah.
supposed to help us in that area, because I love, that's really good what you're saying, because that's where I think, this is so funny though, my very first Bible study, like at a church, just coming back to the Lord, I was like so embarrassed because the Bible I had was like the free one they gave you, so I had to go buy this really expensive leather cover.
You're so funny.
And then I was like, I had to have all the
You
little
were
Bible marking tools. I was fronting. I was totally fronting on this whole thing, because I thought, I had to walk in with my pretty Bible bag, and then I even paid for one of those embroidered one that had a verse on it. I mean, I toted that sucker thing,
yeah.
and I got there. And like nobody talked to me. It was like very clicks, and they would come at first, and then they're just like, and I was just like, oh, this feels so weird. And then they had only one person teaching it. Nobody else was like really interacting unless they asked you questions.
Yeah.
So basically you were spoon-fed how they, and I was just like so confused, because I'm like, I'm reading this and I don't understand it that way, and so it was not a good experience for me.
Bible studies are not one size fits all. You need
No,
to
they're not.
see.
They're not. And the other woe I will say, and some things to note, is especially when you really start connecting, then you get really excited and you're like, oh, I want to do that study. Oh, I've been thinking about that book. Oh, I want to do this. And you will set yourself and you'll do 3 or 4, and then
You
it's
know what I
like
call
you're
that?
overwhelming.
Hashtag Bible study ADD. Don't get it, girls.
Don't
get it.
No,
You will be
because you'll be
all-
crazy. You'll have so
Guilty.
you'll have so many, and then you can't really focus on one. So I've been really good about really scaling back. I really only do 1, maybe 2.
That you commit.
So I've heard both of them say, both of you say, I'm talking to them about you, okay? I've heard you both say, ask God who should be in here. Ask your friends, what do you read? Talk to people. So my fun story is, I wasn't trying to go to a Bible study. A friend had asked us to go, and we had already been doing so much with the church that one more evening a week was not going to happen. So they called and said, it's actually canceled. All the families are just going to meet at the park. I was like, all right, cool. So we went. And, at some point, adults are sitting around the picnic tables. My husband's pushing the kids on the swings, and they whip out the books and hand me one. And they take turns reading, and they gave me a turn, and I yelled. I mean, I don't pray out loud. I read out loud now, because I'm a little older than I was then. But I was like, no, I'm just gonna sit here, all really uncomfortable. Anyway, my husband goes to walk up, and he finally sees what everyone's doing at the table, and he literally looks at me like, "Are you kidding me? Did you trick me to get me here?" And I was like, no, I didn't know this was happening. So he turned around and went back to the place set, and I was just like, I was just tricked into a Bible study. Don't do that to people.
Right. Be
Don't
honest.
have your bag of Bible study tricks.
Yeah.
Come on. No.
Yeah, because actually mine was kind of a bad experience, but it actually, God turned all the bad into good, and actually the book that we were doing was The Purpose-Driven Life, which was like
That's why I was tricked into reading and I never finished it.
Oh my gosh,
Oh, you
I
need
have
to.
lots of copies for you.
Yeah.
I've read it numerous times. I buy them at the Goodwill, give them out, because
Yeah.
it
It's
is
a great
good.
one. Yeah.
It is good.
I would say one last thing for me, and this I think is just me, but I'm sure y'all can relate and they can too, but I've always used Bible study groups as accountability in a couple of different areas for me, but the big one was to hold me accountable to make sure I was reading my Bible and making the time for it, because when you've got a whole other group of women, or even just a couple who are kind of expecting you to maybe have something to share, to say, then of course you're like, okay, yeah, I need to make sure I get this done this week. And when I first started doing small groups, is what we called it, within probably 6 or 7 months of that small group and connecting with the women, on day 1 actually, I met a lady that months later ended up praying for me and helping me stop drinking alcohol, and that has changed my life. And so that alone, that one experience, was enough for me to say, you know what? Something happens in these groups.
Right.
Something powerful happens. So I don't shy away, and I don't, you know, like I think one of the notes on here, you haven't said yet, but like checking your judgments at the door.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say that's probably the number one tip when you decide to join a Bible study. Check your judgments at the door. That is
true.
huge.
That's
I mean,
true.
just go in, pray. If you're not ready to get vulnerable, you're not ready to share, then be ready to listen and not judge.
Right.
You know, and learn something. Because you can, I mean, I'm telling you,
good.
things have happened to me at Bible study group that have changed my life.
Exactly. And it's good. And
don't
it's
be
so
afraid.
good. So don't be afraid. And even if you had a bad experience, God can always work it out for good. So we hope you've enjoyed this episode of A New View and that you've got some Bible study basics that you can start to maybe form your own group, or maybe it will help you make some firm decisions to say, hey, this is the study I'm going to join this fall. We hope that we haven't scared you away on some of the foes, woes, and things you need to know. And again, if you're in Northwest Houston, Texas, contact us. We have a Divine Connections group, and we'd love to unpack the Bible with you. Take care and have a great day.